Okay, so welcome to the first meeting of middle school speech and debate.
Ooh.
Yay.
I should
Okay.
turn my camera on.
If there were more people, we'd be introducing ourselves, but there aren't. So for now, it would just be me, William, and Jonathan. So my name's Nicole. I'm a senior in high school. And so yeah, in high school. And my least favorite subject in school is gonna be economics because our teacher is like super annoying and he like makes us do stuff that isn't even on the curriculum. He just like goes and makes it harder for no reason. Yeah. And this is a picture of my cat, by the way. He's like 6 months old.
And the watermark for scale.
Yeah.
Oh, there's an echo. Echo.
Yeah.
Where's that echo coming from? Can you hear that echo?
No.
Oh, then. Oh, whatever. I'll just listen to it. So, anyways, my name's Jonathan. Hello, and I'm currently a junior in high school. So I'm a grade under Nicole, and I go to Interlake. So I guess that's the middle school that I don't go to. I go to high school, Interlake. And my least favorite subject in school is Chinese because I suck ass at Chinese, and like the teacher just teaches everything in Chinese and it makes me want to like ask her what she's asking, but it looks embarrassing. So yeah, I don't like Chinese.
What about you, William?
My name is William. I'm in 7th grade. I go to Odell, and I don't like LA because I don't like writing.
Solid. Great. Okay, so what is public forum? Here's a refresher in case anyone from last year forgot and in case the new students don't know. It's a two-person debate, so that means you and a partner will be debating against two other people. And basically, this form of debate emphasizes like making arguments and speaking in a way that's accessible to everyone. So there's other forms of debate like LD and policy, but they're very different because a lot of times they can have like complicated arguments or they speak really fast. So like the normal, parent wouldn't be able to understand. But public forum more so emphasizes like communicating to the vast majority of people who don't have like a lot of knowledge on the topic specifically. But in recent years, public forum has been moving more towards kind of like policy and LD in that it's gotten like a lot faster and more technical. But in the local circuits, you can always find like public forum that emphasizes like being accessible to everyone. Public forum helps you build research, knowledge, and speaking skills because you'll have to give speeches every single round and you have to do a lot of research beforehand on the topics. It also helps you with critical thinking because you have to like think on your feet. When your opponent says something, you have to like refute it like right away, right? And then there are resolutions that change every 1 or 2 months. And resolutions are basically the topics that we debate, and these center around current issues, ranging from topics on the economy to war to healthcare. So, for example, one of the these are three old topics, but one of the old topics was the U.S. federal government should implement the Medicare for All Act of 2019. Okay, and then there's going to be 4 different types of speeches in public forum debate. The first is the constructive, which is 4 minutes. It's like the evidence in your literary analysis essay. It's like, why am I right? What evidence supports my side? So, for example, if the resolution or the topic was like the US should ban all homework, right? And I'm like, no, we shouldn't do that because and then I would read evidence that no homework means decrease in learning. It means like worse test scores, etc. So it's like everything that supports your side. The second speech is going to be the rebuttal, which is also 4 minutes. This is like the although they say this is what's true part of your literary analysis essay. So like sometimes you might write like, oh, some people may say that pencils are bad for the environment, but in actuality, right? That's what it is. So rebuttal focuses on why are your opponents wrong and why do your arguments make more sense than theirs. The third speech is summary, which is 3 minutes. You're going to summarize everything. It's kind of like the conclusion of your essay. So it's why am I winning at the end of the day? And why are my arguments more important than theirs? So even if they win, you know, that like pencils are bad for the environment, why is my argument that like pencils help you study more important than the environment, right? And then final focus is the last speech. It's also 3 minutes long. Oh, no, it's actually 2 minutes long. Sorry, I need to change that. But this is where you crystallize. This is like the call to action in your essay where you're like, hey, you need to vote for us today because of these reasons. And then you list them, right? So in debate, you're going to have a AF versus neg. Sometimes it's also pro versus con. So for example, if the resolution was the US federal government should legalize all illicit drugs, pro or AF would be like, yes, legalize drugs. And they would list like a lot of reasons why you should, like it's good for your health, it decreases crime, whatever, right? And then neg would be, no, don't legalize drugs, right? And then they list all the reasons why it's wrong. Okay. So you can also kind of see like these examples. So like school should ban homework, right? And AF would be like, yes, school should ban homework because it leads to stress and it like hurts the mental health of students. And then neg would be like, no, it's actually really good for learning and for education in general. Okay. Lastly, one of the more important things in debate is flowing. And flowing is just another way to say taking notes. And flowing is super critical to a good debate because like a whole debate usually lasts at least 45 minutes, right? And if you don't take any notes, you're definitely not going to remember exactly like what everyone said. You're definitely going to forget something, and that's critical because, you know, your opponents might point that out. Hey, they forgot to respond to my like third argument, and you can just like flow that through because, you know, they didn't respond to it. So taking good notes is really important so you can remember what your opponent said and refute it. What you should aim for when you're flowing is getting down the evidence names and the years. So a lot of time when we're reading a constructive, which is the first speech, we read evidence in our case, right? About like, oh, for example, Smith 21. That would mean like the source is Smith and then the year 21 is 2021. So basically Smith 21, you would want to write that down and then whatever like key point about the evidence, right? So like maybe Smith 21 says 50 million people die of like drugs every day. So I would write Smith 21, 50 mil die, right? What's also important is to use shorthands. So if you look at the image here, it's a little bit hard to see. But if you look like right here at number 1, there's like a dollar sign, right? So instead of writing money, you'd write a dollar sign. Or instead of writing like decreasing prices means more poverty, you would maybe draw a down arrow for decreasing. So down arrow prices equals and like the equal sign, right? Increasing poverty, and you draw like an upwards arrow to show increasing. And then next is you should be using 2 different colors for pro and con, or F and neg. And, you know, in this case, they're using purple for pro and black for neg. It doesn't really matter what colors you use as long as you like remember that you should be using 2 different colors and you know which color goes to which side. And then lastly, you should be flowing vertically, not horizontally. This is like so important. I can't stress this enough. But if you look at this sheet of paper, right, you can do it like hamburger style. This is horizontally, but then like what you'll end up happening is like when you write the arguments, they usually have a lot of arguments and you want to write downwards, right? But you don't want to write like horizontally, because what happens is if you write horizontally, like let's say you go all the way down here and you have no more room, then you have to start a next column, right? But then you can't write your arguments like right next to where their arguments were. So it's a lot better always to do them vertically. And whenever you flow, you should have 2 pieces of paper, right? So one is going to be for neg and one is going to be for af. Okay, now to kind of like give you an idea of what public forum debate is like, Jonathan and I are going to do a SPAR. This is short for spontaneous argumentation, but it's like a very shortened version of debate. So we're gonna get a 2-minute constructive where we state like why our side is good and support our side of the argument. We're going to get a 1-minute rebuttal to refute whatever our opponents say, and then a 1-minute summary to kind of like wrap everything up and be like, this is why you should vote for us. So today's topic is pencils are better than pens. Okay, Jonathan, did you say you wanted pens or pencils?
I'm neg, so I want pens. I'm arguing pens are better than pencils.
Okay, so Jonathan will be arguing that pens are better than pencils, and I'm arguing that pencils are better than pens. I assume you prepped this out, right, Jonathan?
No, I didn't.
Okay, then you can go first.
All right. Sure. I'll get up a time real quick. You said 2 minutes constructive?
Yeah, it's on the slides.
All right. Got it. Pull up the totally not prep that I did. All right. So I'm on the neg side, and I think that pens are better than pencils. First, we'll make a really quick definition here. Mechanical pencils are not pencils. They are actually, Corkbooks actually finds that mechanical pencils are a combination of both pencils and pens. So they shouldn't be evaluated in round, as any advantages or any reasons that better pens are better than pencils also applies. Mechanical pencils are better than pens are also applies to pens as well. And with that, pens are better than pencils for 2 reasons. First is the cost, right? So pens last way longer than pencils. Like you could buy like for $1 a pen that lasts you several months. Like I've done that a lot. I've just gone out and bought like $5 worth of pens and I'm still using them. And I bought those pens in 7th grade. So even if you buy like an equivalent amount of money, use that money to buy the same amount of pencils, you still would only last maybe a few weeks to a few months. While with pens, you can buy a bunch and it'll last you years. So that's why pens are better than pencils, because they're a lot more cost efficient, right? You buy one pen for like $1 and like it'll last you for the same amount of time as you need to spend for like $7 worth of pencils. And also pencils are a lot cool. Pens are a lot cooler than pencils, right? Like pencils all basically look the same. They're just a wooden frame with like some coloring if you're lucky, right? And they're all really straight and really annoying and really narrow, right? But with pens, you can customize them, right? You can get metal pens, you can get plastic pens, you can get pens with different detailing, with different ways to hold them. And it's a lot more comfortable that way, right? You can buy a pen that suits your hand, while all pencils are one size fit all. So yeah, overall, pens are better than pencils because they're a lot more cost efficient and cheap for the amount of time you get to use them. And they are a lot cooler than pencils. That's why you should vote for the neg on this side of the debate.
Great, that was so good. All right, we'll be moving on to my speech. Let me just pull up my timer. Okay, why won't it let me? Okay, so I'm supporting the side that pencils are better than pens. So pencils are better than pens for a variety of reasons. The first, which is that you can actually erase them. When you think about it, at the end of the day, what is the point of a pencil or a pen? It's to write things down. And why do we write things down? Either to like take notes, or more importantly, I would say the most reason like why people are using pencils or pens is because they're like studying, they're in school, right? So think about it. When you take a test, do you want to bring in a pencil or do you want to bring in a pen? Obviously you want a pencil, because if you're using a pen and you like mark the answer A, later you realize, oh, the answer is actually C, but you already like use your pen, right? So you have to like scratch it out and then you have to make everything really ugly, right? The better thing to do is if you had a pencil, you can erase it and you can change the new answer right there. Now, Jonathan might come up here and tell you that, oh, we have erasable pens. Most of the time, those like actually dent the paper, or they can rip holes in the paper, or they don't erase very cleanly or easily the way that you can with a pencil. But then, second of all, let's think about cost. Pencils are way cheaper than pens. You can go to like Staples and get a pack of like 30 pencils for $1, whereas a lot of pens are really expensive because, as Jonathan said, they can be really fancy, right? You can have like $30 fountain pen. That's really expensive. But even if we were to believe him, okay, if you buy $1 pencils, they only last a few weeks. Let's think about why. The reason is more people use pencils than they use pens because pencils can erase, right? When you're drawing, you use a pencil. When you are writing, you use a pencil. You don't want to like have to scratch over everything in order to fix a mistake, which we often make. At the end of the day, the reason why buying $1 worth of pencils lasts you shorter time than buying $1 worth of pen is because more people are using the pencil. So overall, they're getting used faster. That's why you should always see that pencils are better than pens.
All right, I guess we just go straight into the rebuttal. So, all right, Nicole said a few points here. First, she tries to tell you guys that pencils can be erased, and because we use like pencils and writing a lot for like at school and stuff, we need to be able to erase. But what's really important here is that like the majority of the time you're writing, it's not like during a test. It's during like when you're at home, when you have to do notes and stuff. And in those cases, you have to write a lot, right? Y'all are getting to the point where y'all have to start writing a lot for like LA, for history, for like different electives that you choose. So in order to write a lot, you need something that lasts really long and you don't have to constantly go sharpen it, or you don't have to constantly go buy more. So that's what a pen does. The pen allows you to write a bunch, and that's why you see that like pens are a lot better at just everyday writing. And second, she tries to tell you that like pens are super cheap. But what's really important here is that like pens, like pens are also really cheap if you really want to get one. And even those pens last for like a few months, right? The pens that I bought when I was in 7th grade, I'm still using those, and those cost me like $10 for a set of like 5. So you can also get, so in the end, pens are better than pencils because you can get a lot of variety, but even if you don't want that variety, you can still get it cheap. So in the end, like pens are a lot more efficient than pens. Wait, no, pens are a lot more efficient than pencils.
Okay. All right. I'll be refuting Jonathan's rebuttal and his original constructive. The first thing that Jonathan says against me is that like erasing doesn't matter because most of the writing is when you're taking notes at home or when you're like writing an essay, right? At the end of the day, he doesn't realize that computers are now the new thing, right? When you're typing something really long, you're obviously going to be using computers. But when you do need to write something physically, when is that? That's when you take a test when you can't use a computer because you might cheat. The teachers always want you to use pencils. What do we use on the SAT? We use number 2 pencils. We do not use pens because you cannot erase them well enough. At the end of the day, if you want to go to a good college, you need to be looking towards pencils because that's what you use to take tests. But then second of all, he tells you that like both are really cheap, but pens last a longer time than pencils. What's really important here is that he never responds to the fact that I say you use pencils more, which is why they don't last as long. But then finally, let's look at his point about like, oh, there's a variety of colors. There are also a lot of different pencils you can get. Like you can get a large variety of pencils and you can get a large variety of pens. There's even like colored pencils as well, right? Nobody uses like colored pens in a drawing. So the same amount of variety you can get from pens, you can also get from pencils.
All right. Then I'll just be explaining why pens are obviously better than pencils and going to refuting some of Nicole's points. All right. First, Nicole tells you that most of the stuff that we do online and is like already being typed, right? And like whenever you take the SAT, you need to use pencils. But what's really important here is that by the time middle schoolers like you are going to be taking the SAT, it's already going to be online. Pencils aren't going to be necessary at that point. So you don't really need to consider this argument. But then she tells you that like pencils are a lot cheaper and they're a lot less like efficient because people use them a lot, but that's just not true. Pencils are like people who use pens and like as much as pencils use the pencils way quicker than pens, and they still can use the pens long after they bought them, while the pencil, like the 30 pack of pencils that you bought, is used in like maybe a few months. So in the end, you really need to agree with the fact that like pens are a lot cheaper and a lot more cost efficient than pencils. And the fact that like you can get a large variety of them. Like even if you use like who uses colored pencils to do anything? Like it's always colored pens. Whenever you see these people like the master drawers, they never use colored pencil. It's always colored pens. So like in the end, that's why you should agree with the fact that pens are better than pencils.
Great. I'll be giving my summary as well. Okay. First, even if we believe everything Jonathan says, at the end of the day, the only thing he has are pens have pretty colors, and pens are cheaper than pencils. But what is more important is the fact that you can erase pencils really easily. Now, why does this take out his entire argument? Why is it more important? Even if the SAT is moving online, there are still many tests in school that you have to do on pencil and paper because your teachers don't want you to cheat on the exam. There's also the ACT, which is like the alternative to the SAT, which gets you into college. At the end of the day, pencils will get you into college and will get you good grades, which are important to getting into college, which like makes you rich, has a happy life, etc. Right? Even if I have to pay a little bit more for like pencils, like maybe $1 more for pencils as compared to pens, I'd rather be able to get into college and be able to get a job than have to pay $1 more or like can't be able to use, really pretty colors in my pens. That's why you're always going to see that pencils are better than pens. Yay, so fun.
Who doesn't love some fun debate?
Okay, so that was a small look into SPAR. I just want to ask William, do you want to spar with us, or do you not feel comfortable?
Probably gonna get wrecked, so no.
You won't get wrecked. we can have Jonathan go against you. Jonathan can only speak.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
No. Jonathan can only speak for half of the time. So his constructive will be 1 minute, whereas yours is 2 minutes. His rebuttal will be 30 seconds, and his summary will be 30 seconds.
But what's the topic gonna be?
Let me think. We can go back.
What do you want the topic to be?
Yeah, do you want to choose one of these, or
just make up your own?
Yeah, you can also make up.